Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 6 to 7 Figure Women podcast with myself, Megan Conter, the incredible Jessica Fernley, and our special guest today, Susan Frew.
Hi,
Susan. We're so excited to have you, and
Thank you.
we're really like just beyond ecstatic to talk about this topic of AI with you, because I'll just give a little bit of background of Susan. So Susan and I met, it's probably been 12, 13 years ago,
Yeah.
when I was in an earlier iteration of my business, and so was she. And she was actually a business coach at the time. And then Susan went from that space to to owning her family Sunshine Heating, Plumbing, Heating, and Air, which is now Sunshine Home Services. And there's funny stories there that you can hear from Susan all over online, but she took that small company from a couple of trucks to a multi-million-dollar business. And it was not an overnight sensation, and it has not been an overnight sensation. But recently, then she's also been a business broker. She's also she is one of those women who is a Renaissance woman. She has many different talents. She is a serial entrepreneur. But what I love most about Susan from a business standpoint is that she gets business. So if you've read the E-Myth, she is not a technician. She is someone who understands business as a whole, the strategy of it, the operations of it, the backbone of it, everything she understands. And she can speak to almost anyone about their business and really understand very clearly what they do. Not only that, but she's also passionate about women in the trades. She's a professional public paid speaker. I mean, you wonder, does the woman actually sleep?
Okay, well, now that you've said all that, my work here is done, and
yep,
have a
we're
great
done.
day, everyone.
But let's get jumping right into the topic today, which is all about having success in any economy, and especially with the use of AI.
Yeah.
So, Susan, you're supposed to be in a recession-proof business as a, plumbing and heating and air company.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that there aren't hardships that come. It doesn't mean that, things don't happen. So what got you into AI, and why do you feel like it's important?
Well, people forget that I have a tech background. So I started in sales with AT&T Wireless a long time ago when phones were big and our only customers were really mobsters, gangsters, Wall Street, kind of the same thing. And that was who our customers were. But I grew up in that industry, basically. And I loved it. I love all things technology. Like, I was the first one to get a really good computer, and I had the first camera phone because for a while I was director of products with AT&T Wireless. And then I ended up launching 147 markets in the US. And then I lived in Grenada and St. Vincent and the Grenadines for 2 years. And I was there building their network, and I was the GM of both countries. So that's what I love. And I've always tried to find the tech solution to everything. And AI to me is like a candy store. It's like, oh my gosh. Well, for me, it's the best thrift store in the world, the biggest thrift store in the world. Like, I am just having so much fun. And I sort of put a challenge to myself. How much could I automate and save out of my budget for next year? So that's my plan.
Awesome. Beautiful. So what, the best part about Susan is that she just jumps in and she tries all these things in her business first and decides, okay, what's the best software? How could I use this to improve things? And she's not afraid to jump back into the driver's seat of any of the roles in her business. So I think that that's just one piece of advice that I'll just speak for Susan and give everyone, is that you can never be afraid to jump back into the operations role, into the dispatcher role, into the accountant role, into the bookkeeper role. Yeah. And Susan's done that with her business this year, really taking over and looking at every single aspect of the business and making sure that it is streamlined and the processes are updated so that the business can run efficiently and she can cut expenses where they're unnecessary.
Yeah.
Right? Anything you'd add to that, Susan?
No, that is absolutely true, because there are so many automated solutions out there that you can use. And, you know, I've been asked multiple times now that I've been keynoting on the topic of AI and the systemization that we were able to achieve so far. And, you know, futuristically, then I can't wait till next year. But people are asking me, is AI going to take my job? And my stock answer on that, and I'm going to stick with it, is no, but someone who knows AI is going to take your job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's exactly what's happening.
We have no choice but to, in my opinion, to learn these tools to the best of our ability, especially as they relate to our industries and our areas of expertise, and then to implement them into the usage. So for instance, I called one of my service providers, and she's a dame, the other day, and I said, hey, look, I was talking to Susan Frew, and she said that she loves this piece of AI software that's going to take the bookkeeping industry and give you all no jobs if you don't evolve. And I said, so what are you going to do about it? She said, I'm going to get one of my team members on this right away to learn it, see how we can integrate it into our services, and then upgrade what it is that we do to an advisory role. Because we don't need to be having our people do manual loading of transactions when they can just make sure it's correct.
And that platform is actually built for bookkeeping firms. So it's called Book, B-O-O. It's actually Bookie, which I love, you know, being an Italian woman from New Jersey. Bookie is like, you know, where I'm from. You know, everybody's uncle is a bookie in New Jersey.
That's
but
right.
you BOOKE.ai. And so what it does is it allows you to go through all those transactions and ask your client questions while you're doing it. And then the client answers the questions, and boom, we're done. And it's funny because their ads, because it was, you know, coming up towards the end of the month, are like, are you trying to get your end of month done? Not us, because it's already done. And so they reconcile it every day, which I've caught so many mistakes from creditors and banks. I was flabbergasted by the amount of mistakes that I caught in 1 month. It just blew me away, but I'm excited to find out what else.
Yes. So that's bookie.ai, right? Is that one that you're using? And does it work well with QuickBooks?
It connects with QuickBooks and Xero and, you know, all of the platforms. So what it does is it just reconciles as you work through every single month. So you can open it up every day, and then you start teaching it, just like with any AI. I think the best description I've heard of that is you need to season it. Just like you would season one of those cast iron pans, you have to season your AI, and that's training it to work with you, like you, how it can be your co-pilot. Otherwise, you know, it's going to go off the rails and you're not going to get the results. Like, I get much better results than a lot of people I know with AI.
Totally. So when someone is new to AI, I mean, I'm sure that the first question is, what pieces of software should I use? But I think what we should start looking at is, okay, from Susan's point of view, if you're looking at a business, as you do all the time, from the perspective of understanding from a strategic perspective, what is the way, how should businesses look at it? Like, should we look at it and say, okay, where are we spending the most? And how could AI help us solve that problem of overspending? Or do we look at it as it's always the same hierarchy? You should always look at it for marketing and admin first. Or what approach basically should business owners be taking to think about it systematically, and where to go first?
Okay, so here's the human part, right? So everyone asks, like, where does the human fit into this? Well, this is how. And you need to go old school a little bit in order to put your technology in the right place. Because if you do it the opposite way, you are trying to put a round peg in a square hole. And it's like front loaded or rear loaded. There's actually, the technologists have a word for this, right? So I did it so I put everyone around a table, and that had different pieces of our business. So we put sales, marketing, operations, dispatch, materials, bookkeeping. I took the bookkeeping one, even though at the time I had not taught myself how to be a bookkeeper, but now I know. So what we did is we had sticky sheets, right? Just old school. And everyone around that table had a different color sticky. So what we did is we evaluated all of the processes and procedures that we had in our company. And whoever around the table owned that piece, they would be the blue square, and then the yellow square and the red square, right? And just very, very basic. And then what we did is we found a program called Trainial, which I love. So it's like training and manual together. And we started building our systems in there. So it's an AI companion, if you will, to creating a policies and procedures manual for your entire company. And so far, we've built 1,200 different systems in there. And I don't know if for people listening or if the two of you, have you ever tried to write a policy about something and you sit there and you stare at the screen and then you try to figure out what the steps are and then you get bored. Like I have ADHD, so I get bored like in 5 minutes. So I'm like, This is not going fast enough for me. I'm going to find something else to do. But by doing that, then you're able to identify all the pieces and inside the AI generated program, say I needed a uniform policy, and I did. So I wrote in there a uniform policy for people who wear daily uniforms. It printed out 3 paragraphs of a uniform policy that it already had in its hip pocket. So I didn't really need to train it all that well. And then there were certain parts where I built videos inside of the training program. Another thing that I did is I realized that we, can I say sucked?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sure.
We sucked at onboarding. So we would bring somebody on, we would hand them an iPad and a truck, and we'd be like, there you go. Oh, wait, you can ride around with one of the other guys for a week. Let us know how that goes. Well, I kind of figured out the how to hire people part, and then I was like burning them out in like a minute. So what we did then is Gusto, which a lot of people use for payroll. You can now onboard people through Gusto, which is really cool. They do all their paperwork. And then we move them over to Trainial, which is now linked together. And in Trainial, they have 7 hours of training with knowledge checks, with things that they have to sign. So every time it's a policy, you have to sign it.
Wow.
And then there's certain things that are tests, right? We always had a lot of questions about our commission plan. Okay, well, let's give you a test and let's see how you do. And then if there's a problem later, so it was amazing. And now we just keep adding on and on and on to it. And we did the lion's share of it. I documented it on LinkedIn. The lion's share of it was completed in 5 days. 5 long days, but they were 5 days after I did the mapping. And then now we just keep adding and adding and adding. And then I brought the book. So you're asking me, what's the first thing? Old school. You need to understand where the broken parts are in your business, and then you can apply the AI fix. Granted, it makes, writing content easier, and you can do razzmatazz social media posts, and that's amazing. It really is. I love that. But if you want to really go deep into your company like that, you just have to map it out and say, this is what's broken, and then look for that kind of solution.
Can you give an example of an area where you did that?
Yes, a couple different things. One with my bookkeeping. So I am kind of a nightmare bookkeeping customer because I know a little bit more than I should, but I don't know enough to actually be a bookkeeper. So I'm just annoying. I'm an annoying customer. So, and our company financials for Sunshine are extremely complex. So think about it. We have 9 trucks running. They usually do 3 jobs a day times 5 days a week. Right. All of them create a transaction. Every job creates a pay code, right? So it is massive.
Yeah.
And so what I did then, I'm like, you know what? I've never stopped to learn how to use QuickBooks. I mean, I know a little bit. I mean, I can pull the reports, love it, all that, but I didn't know how it really worked. So I took it upon a challenge to myself that I was going to learn. And then I added the bookie on top of it. So what I'm running inside a bookie, see, I'm a bookie running. Perfect. So what we're doing in there is I'm running my speaking company and the plumbing company on the same platform, and it's $50 a month. So my bookkeeping was $2,500 a month. So,
and you figured out that there were areas where your time would be better spent and your money would be better spent by checking to see if there are errors and making sure that it's corresponding with QuickBooks right.
Yeah, and it's a lot easier for me to categorize stuff because I know what it is, and then we don't have to have this ridiculous back and forth. And that's what the bookie version, the accountant's version, is scheduled to do, right? Like I just would send you a text and be like, hey, what's this? Instead of like getting that big long list at the end of the month and you're like, I don't remember what that was, but if you do it the next morning, and then you can catch stuff like, why are we spending that? Or, wow, did you see how much interest we paid on that credit card last month? Let's, kind of get rid of that. So that's some of the big things that I found in the bookkeeping side. And I'm actually enjoying it. I'm learning a lot. I feel a lot more control of my business. I don't think it's something I will continue to do forever.
Right.
But my goal is to get it down to like 30 minutes a week. And then so what?
Well, yeah. And then you could train somebody else in your office, right? Like it's something you could train an office manager to do if they understood, okay, you have to follow up with each driver after transactions when you don't know what something is. You create a process for that.
Yep.
And so all of these things, it's like, we're not necessarily saying that you have to take back every single thing and see if AI can help it. But the areas, so you were basically saying if there's an area that's broken, then you see if you can fix it with AI.
Yes. And what you were saying earlier, I had not been, so I was that arrogant business owner that everything was somebody else's job and not mine because I am the, bon vivant, bougie business owner. Well, that was a really sucky place to be. I realized, I had some real truths that I needed to face earlier this year. And I had never really dug in and done all of the jobs. So I decided now that I was going to do that. So I sat in every chair and said, wait a minute, why are we doing that? Or why are we dealing with this vendor? Or why is that happening? Like all of those things. And I got this amazing clarity and I'm like, and my first question was this: what can we stop doing? Number one, get rid of all that crap. Then what are we doing that's taking a ridiculously long amount of time or is inefficient? And then looking for the AI solutions on top of that. And then getting really good at the AI prompting. And that's probably a whole other episode of prompt engineering.
Totally. Jess, what are you curious about with all this?
Yeah. Oh, is everyone still there? I felt like I lost you for a second. We're good. So yeah, I love what you're describing, Susan, because it's such an exciting time, isn't it? With all these different things, and like we're not doing it on the scale that you are by the sounds of things, but there are certain shortcuts that AI helps you take in a business.
Yeah.
And I'm really interested by what you said in terms of like, it felt really good to actually sit in all the different seats and get that insight, because I think that is a really delicate balance of like, how do we involve other people and pull ourselves out of things to just keep ourselves in the right headspace for being the leader of the business, versus actually it can be a bit dangerous to not really know how the business runs and what is going on at all. So I think that was a really fascinating thing, because one of the conversations that I am in the most often is with business owners who are like, oh God, what's AI? Do I need to know this? And there can be so much overwhelm. And it's actually really refreshing, Susan, to hear that you really jumped into it and it's been something that you've really enjoyed.
Yeah.
It is. And I took it even a step further and I went and got a Google certification. So I took this really hard I don't know what I was thinking. I took this really hard course, and then I announced to the world before I even saw the course that I was getting the certification. So then I really had to do
Had to do it. Yeah, that's true Susan fashion. But I do think, when we think about AI as a whole, like I was trying to think about the fact that, I mean, Susan and I have a close friendship. So we talk about a lot of things in business. We're, mastermind partners with each other, and we talk about all these things. And one of the things that you were saying was about customer service. And, you have always had a white glove approach to customer service. And I know that you've started using some AI tools for that. Would you tell us a little bit about that? Because I think it's really exciting to hear how you can really improve upon what you already do really well.
Sure. One of the things that I did from a customer service perspective is that I made an avatar of myself. And I use an avatar program called HeyGen, HeyGen. It is kind of the new, hottest, latest, greatest thing. And so the avatar, I have one that I'm Susan the speaker avatar. And then I have another avatar that is me in my sunshine plumbing heating jacket. And so my team can send thank you notes to customers with my avatar. And there's rules around that. Like you cannot fire anyone. You can't apply for new credit. You can't buy a car with my avatar, but you can certainly use it. And so we use that a lot for some messaging. We use it for some videos and things like that. My next frontier is my answering service is about $3,000 a month. And that's when we roll over. If we're busy and we roll over, or nights and weekends. There are a ton of AI now, customer service phone trees that are so intuitive. And the one that I found, I'm actually doing 2 calls this week to see which one I'm really going to go with. But one of them takes all of your call logs for a period of a year, which I have, and it will teach itself how to answer the calls. So it will listen to all the plumbing calls, all the HVAC calls, and it's going to figure out what to say. And it's a real conversation. And so just same thing as if you use the new version of ChatGPT with the headphones and you're conversing back and forth with it, it's kind of mind-blowing. But I think that's the way that we're heading. I don't want to pay $3,500 a month for an answering service. That doesn't make any sense,
So going back to what you were saying is really interesting because, again, seeing Susan's business from the outside and the thinking about other businesses, we wouldn't necessarily go. I mean, Susan didn't go straight from like, okay, we went from 2 trucks to 11 trucks, and then we started using AI. There was a lot of things that happened in between there, and she also worked her way to the point of being able to be out of the business and only be in it for a few hours a week, and then realized, okay, here are some opportunities to really decrease our overhead because it's expensive in a trades company. So she knew the only way I'm going to be able to do this is to go back in. And then to say, okay, now I see what all these positions are doing. I'm going to streamline what they're doing. And then it just so happened that all these AI tools came out at the same time, and Susan's paying attention to the things that are happening and has always been an early adopter. I mean, we met because she hired me to teach her social media back in 2008 and 2009. Yeah. So it's like, every business owner is going to be different in their approach, but yes, Jess, it's important that we figure out how to hire the right people that we trust and how to have the great standard operating procedures that they can follow. And we're vetting those processes so that we can get ourselves out and get ourselves into the CEO role. And there's just some points at which, that $2 million mark, the $2 million to $10 million, whatever hiatus there, or not hiatus, but space, that's where a lot of these kinds of things need to happen because you're about to go to that next big jump, or maybe you want to stay at that level and just maintain. But it's a whole different set of needs.
For people who are listening, if you heard nothing else that I was saying, listen to this. Your competitors are going to get on the ball with AI. So you have choices. We all have choices, right? You could be like, no, I'm not going to go down this road, and it's time for me to put my feet up and retire or sell or move on or what have you. And that is fine. You do you. However, if you plan to stay in business in the next 10 years, you need to get on the program. And I am living testament that you do not need to be a Gen Z or millennial, or even though millennials are like 40 now. You don't need to be that demographic. You would suspect me to be that person, although I do love my tech, but I just have seen the beauty of efficiency and all the other things that you could do. If you're a person who gets to the end of the day and you're exhausted because you had so much to do, this is going to help you. It's like, it is your buddy. Like, treat it like it's your buddy, and it's going to work.
Yeah. And see what resources you already have around you that can help you learn what's going to be best for you.
Yeah.
There are already companies out there. There are already coaches out there. In the Dames, we have the oh my gosh, my brain just forgot their names. They have the same name. The Laurens, thank you. The Laurens, who have been teaching all kinds of courses on how to use AI. And so we've created a pod in the Dames for those who want to learn AI. There are resources around you everywhere where you can take classes on an online tool, etc. But I would recommend hiring a consultant to look at your whole business and say, okay, where are the areas that AI would be most profitable, would help you be more profitable? And, how could you implement those first? And then, or even my approach is being a creative is to just go in and say, how can this help me be more creative and more effective with my creativity? And so I'm excited to start playing with some of the tools that Susan's been using. So selfishly, I'm going to take a question here that's for me, which is, you create this avatar video through HeyGen, correct, Susan?
Yeah.
And then do you put it into Pictory to create the videos, or do you create everything through HeyGen?
Yeah, HeyGen does it right in there. And so I'll give you an example. And HeyGen is updating daily. Yeah. So I love British history. All that know me know that. I love going to England. I am very, very happy. Living in a British colony for 2 years was my happy place. However, and I know a lot of the history. So Prince Albert, right? Prince Albert married to Queen Victoria for many, many years in the 1850s. He was our technologist of our time. And he had this amazing worldwide event where 14,000 new adventurers came to London, which the spot is still there. The Crystal Palace is no longer there, but the spot is still there, where they brought elephants from Africa and India, and the United States sent over farm equipment, and they brought a train car and they pulled it by horses. So crazy. So Albert is like the technologist of his day. So I asked ChatGPT, what would Albert think of AI? And so ChatGPT gave you this big long script of what they thought that Albert would say. And then I wanted to give Albert a German accent because he was German. And that's one of the reasons he wasn't so popular when he first came on the scene, is because his family was from Germany. And I couldn't do it, right? So I had a choice between a British accent or him speaking in German. I could make him speak in German, but that created a whole other problem. So I ran him just with the British accent. Well, 2 weeks later, I go in there, bam, now Albert is speaking with a German accent. So now I was able to get a new voice. And so it keeps updating. And my neighbors, the husband is American and the wife is Chinese. And so I made him talk in Chinese. So, which is really fun. He doesn't know what he said now, but that's the danger point there too, guys, right? This is how we get fake news.
So speaking of, Jess, you were wondering about security.
Yeah, well, an objection that I hear often to AI, And Susan, by the way, don't feel like you need to be the defender of AI. But like one of the reasons that I hear people say they don't want to engage with it is because they're like, yeah, but what about the security? Like, what about the data? Like, it's listening to all our conversations. Like, if we put photos in the AI photo generators, then our photo is in there. And like, what are they going to do with it? Like, what would you say about all of that?
Well, I popped my financials into ChatGPT out of a spreadsheet. I cut and pasted. I'm like, believe me, when the world sees those, they are not going to be interested in this company anyway right now. However, I think that every path that we've gone down in our technological history, when we introduced the internet and then, we started cellular phones. Like I remember because I was, early adopter of cell phones. Like everyone's like, oh, they're listening. There's somebody sitting out there in a van listening to your conversation. Really? Like, what are the real chances of that? So with anything, you need to protect yourself, just like your personal body. You are not going to walk at night in a bad neighborhood without looking around and being careful and having mace in your pocket. Like all of that applies. But now you are walking through a new dimension. And just like anything, there's going to be bad actors. There's just going to be people who take this technology and they're going to use it to be nefarious, rotten, horrible people, which they were in the beginning. So this just gives them more tools too.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same with social media, right? Like there's people who use it for negative and there's people who use it for positive. It's always been that way since the dawn of time. There's going to be the Jedis.
Well, I think all of us have lived through like the Wild West of the internet because, when you think back to the 90s and like, I guess even like the early 2000s when it was just like really anything goes, and before like the big data sort of awakening where people are like, wait a minute, my personal autonomy, what are you doing? I guess we all survived that, didn't we?
Yeah. And if you think they're listening, they are. Like you've been using Siri and you've been using Alexa, you've been using Facebook. Like, do you really think it's coincidental that you're talking about shoes and then 87 shoe ads come up? No, remarketing has been like getting stronger and stronger every year for the last 10 years. And that's all AI. I'm really excited. I just learned a new trick where I'm taking my customer list and sort of I'm not sending it anywhere and I'm not sharing it with anyone, but I'm going to create really good remarketing campaigns myself. And then I listened to some of my favorite podcasts, but I was listening to this woman this morning and I had FOMO because I was driving and she was also showing it on YouTube. So it's a YouTube and a podcast. And I was like, man, I got to get to the office so I can see what she's doing. But she figured out this way to create these amazing, compelling landing pages by using all of her competitors' landing pages and putting all of those landing pages into ChatGPT and having it analyze it and to come up with how is she going to kick their butt. And I was like, I'm doing that. So I haven't had a chance yet because it's been a busy day, but that is on my project list for this week.
That's brilliant. And so from someone who still has ChatGPT not paid, because I've been now on the wait list for 3-4 months, something like that. Well, what is there any difference between them? Can we still do a whole bunch through the standard level? And I mean, if again, I'm not expecting you to know every piece of software.
Well, you can. Yes, there are a lot of things you can do. One of the big things that I've been playing with, because I do have the expanded version, I'm a woman who loves subscriptions. So now I need to use AI to look at my AI subscriptions and, because I have so many of them. But what I love is I created my own GPTs. So I have my own. So I have a Sunshine marketing one and I have a Sunshine financial analyzer. So what I did with the financial analyzer, and my prompts aren't exact on it. And I just want to cover that for a second. Megan, you said it earlier, like if you're in a bigger company, you would have a prompt engineer on site and on board in your company, if you're a bigger company. And then this was really interesting. And I know that you, Megan, work in teams. Jessica, I don't know about your business, but what they were suggesting, the gurus all do this. They either have a Notion or a Google Doc or what have you, and the company shares prompt engineering. So if you get a good one and you've drilled down in it for 2 days and you finally get this big aha moment, share it with the rest of your team. Like, don't make them poke around out there and figure that out. But that's definitely where it's headed. And my own GPT. So I took profit and loss, balance sheet, cash flow projection, and I put it all in there. Copy and paste, and I uploaded it. So here's the funny thing, because ChatGPT is so literal sometimes. So I said, analyze this CSV of my balance sheet and let me know, a plan for 2024. Well, it analyzed the sheet. It says, well, column 1 is this wide and column 6 is this wide. I'm like, okay. So it analyzed the construction of the sheet. No. What we want to do is analyze the data of the sheet. So I just cut the data out and popped it in, and then it worked. So, it's a lot of hunting and pecking on that. And I do have I have a subscription to prompt engineering Bible, which is really cool. And Megan, I'll share that with you. And the prompt engineering Bible will help you get better results from ChatGPT without the upgrade.
Awesome. I love that. So we've talked a little bit about how to analyze your expenses, how to look at those places where your business might be a little rattly and be able to make it more sustainable. Any ideas, Susan, for how any business could think about, okay, how do I generate more revenue by using AI?
Well, that's, I've been giving that a lot of thought myself, because there's internet millionaires, and then there's .com millionaires, and there's going to be AI millionaires, which is now why I have www.susanfrewspeaks.ai and a variety of others that I have captured. My GoDaddy bill is quite significant each month. So what I'm going to go back to what I said earlier. You need to go down and figure out what the real problems are in your company and where you're getting stuck and where the bottlenecks are. And you need to use it there, right? So you need to put in a player. They're another team member now, and they're going to be your co-pilot.
So let's play with an example there, Susan. So is there an area in your business where you were being successful in marketing before, and then all of a sudden it wasn't?
Yes. So we did really well in some of the directories like Yelp and Angie's List and all that. And, as they get more and more saturated, and then Google pay-per-click for a company our size, we're $2 million. We get our butt handed to us on that because there's giant companies in this city that spend millions of dollars a year on pay-per-click budgets. And I can't afford that. And never. And it used to be, Google would reward you for your good reviews and la, la, la. Well, yeah, no. Now it's, pay to play. And so I can't compete on that ballgame. But I am going to find a way to promote our company using AI and not spending all that money on Google pay-per-click. I don't know if they're going to take my certificate back after I just said that, but it's okay.
I don't think so. I don't think they're going to be able to find everything.
Yeah, but I think that's a real opportunity. Like if you're a business who had really good results with all kinds of pay-per-click and now it's not working, now's a good time to reevaluate, what's your messaging look like? Just like anything, going back to ground zero, what's your message look like? Is your branding consistent? Are you targeting the right people? Are you presenting your product and services in such a way that your target market, and you need to know your target market, are interested in you? But I know my target market extremely well, and it's an underserved market. We serve women who need a plumber in an HVAC company, and that's our people. We've done a customer avatar. The avatar is called Bougie Betty, and basically Betty is my friends, and they're women who want no nonsense. We're busy. We want somebody who we can trust to show up to say they're going to show up, do the work, and make it better than when they came. So,
yep. And have you loaded all that Bougie Betty information into ChatGPT?
I have, and I have some ideas. So I had some marketing contracts that are kind of spinning out towards the end of the year. So thus far, drum roll, I'm at $120,000 that I've cut out of the budget for 2024.
That's amazing.
That is
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Jess, what are some thoughts that you have or questions that you have that might come from people in your clientele?
I think one of the curiosities that comes up is, how do we bring team members along? Like, is there, like, when you introduce these things, Susan, did you find that team members were on board, or were they like, are you cutting me? Am I part of the 120,000?
Well, interesting. We have a lot of Gen Z and millennial employees, most of them. The women in the office who are amazing, and one of them in particular has got a real affection for marketing. She's also a nonfiction writer, so she's very, very creative, and she's an amazing hire. She jumps on it right away. Man, she was just like, whoosh, oh, we can get our social media content done for the month in an afternoon. Let's do it. So she was right on there. Some of my technicians, weirdly, some of the ones on the younger side were a little bit skeptical. And when I did the entire process for, the onboarding, we had employees who had been with us for a while go through the training as well. And one of our technicians just hated it. He hated because he knew I used AI. He, was just grumbling about the whole thing, blah, 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 on and on and on and on. And I was like, it's just going to be like anything, when someone created the automobile, there were still people on their horse and buggy and saying it's not going to last. Well, okay, we're on our way to flying cars now, people. Get on the program.
Absolutely. Anything else you're curious about, Jess?
I've got something percolating, but I don't have words for it yet. Megan, what do you have?
Okay. So when I think about surviving in any economy, or succeeding rather, not surviving, but succeeding in any economy, something about you, Susan, is that AI is it's the newest form of technology that you're using right now. And before that, you had some other theories. So you wrote a book called The Pufferfish Effect. Yeah. And at that time, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm remembering back 10 years now, that book was about making your small company seem larger and have the defenses of a pufferfish. And so is there anything else aside from AI that you would just say rise to the top of your list of how and all businesses are going to succeed in any economy?
Here's the thing. People are like, is AI going to take over? Are they going to take my job? Blah, blah, blah. No. As a human, you need to be the best human you can be and figure out how to be the best leader that you can. And I was a terrible leader for a long time because I came out of corporate America and I never really looked at everybody else's perspective. And I never really understood everyone's job because I was the boss and I had my big corner office. That's all out the window. It's over. Those days are over. Thank goodness. It is, it has left the building. And I think that you need to be humble and you need to be open and honest with not only your employees, but with your community, your customers. And business is hard. Like, anybody who looks at a business owner with envy should walk in the shoes of, I am unemployable at this point in my life. So I really have to be an entrepreneur, but I've really learned that you need to really be that heart-centered leader. And I don't mean that to be a cliche. It's not. Like, I really changed. I really did. I changed so much in this last 18 months. And I'm grateful. And you don't get that education unless you've been through some stuff.
No, it's the hard knocks of business. That's where you get
Mhm.
that education.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
so when I look at, at myself and, Susan, my belief is that we have to continue to grow personally. And for me, my leadership has been vulnerability and sharing where it is that I am along the journey, even when the shit hits the fan and times aren't great. What would you say your new style of leadership is?
Well, thanks to my good friend Heather Younger, who wrote a book called Caring Leadership, and then she just came out with a new book, and it's The Art of Listening, or something close. Sorry, Heather, if you hear this. I've really taken that to heart. I really listening to everybody's ideas and really just rolling up my sleeves. I used to dread the Tuesday meetings when everyone would come in. And now I'm really looking forward to it. I know about everybody's story. I know what's happening with everyone. And, I've been burned by employees big time. You know this, Megan. Like I have, like I'm going to write a book about that one of these days, of all the interesting stories. But I think that's it. As this technology comes in, you are the glue. The human is the person who cares, the person who sets the direction, the person who loves their team, who cares for their customers. Like, yeah.
Totally. Jess, what about you? What would you say your leadership style is in the new Jess version?
I think, well, it's always kind of been being a bit of a hot mess, but like quite lovable. And in doing so, giving other people permission to also be a bit of a mess sometimes. And I like that. It works for me. It seems to work for my audience.
The truth is, we're all a hot mess. I mean, we can put on the best persona that we want to, but we're not robots. We are not.
Yeah.
We are the humans that have human moments.
I think it's like the ruthless truthfulness as well of like, I've always felt like I'm not going to be like an Instagram person who's like, oh my gosh, look at my amazing life. I'm much more likely to be like, here's all the stuff that went wrong this week.
Yeah.
And I think it's just really refreshing when we can show that. I mean, I love, Susan, what you said about the heart-centeredness, because exactly like, I think for a lot of us, our businesses are so much more than just a business, just a job. It's like, it's a calling, it's a mission, it has purpose. And I think we've always got to be a bit careful, because I think when we do business with our whole hearts and like our whole souls, there's going to be some bumps and bruises along the way. And we can be smart about that, but we can also lack boundaries sometimes and find out the hard way that we needed the boundaries. But I think business is amazing when it engages your whole heart, because what we put out into the world ultimately is love and wanting other people to have good things. And I think that that's something magical that women-owned businesses, I'm not going to say it's unique, because I don't think that's fair to male-owned businesses, but I think there is a really powerful, new, strong perspective and dimension on how to do business, because so many women are coming into entrepreneurship.
Something else that I realized, I have never really been very open about having ADHD. I've been open about having a head injury. I've had 10 concussions, but I have some OCD because of those experiences and ADHD. But it seems that a lot of people in my company are now being really open about being neurodiverse in their own special way. And the ladies in the office call it neurospicy.
Yes.
So I love that. And so we are all neurospicy together. And I actually just created, or ChatGPT or Dolly actually created a logo for me of a podcast that I want to start that's about AI and neurodiversity. Because I feel like those of us who are neurospicy, jumping from thing to thing, that's why we love this technology, because it's like finally something can keep up with me.
Yes.
My brain goes that fast. I think I don't have the answers as well as ChatGPT does, but I love the speed of that. That's my jam. I love that. And man, I could play with 5 or 6 different things. I need more monitors. That's my plan.
I love that perspective. Actually, I have a neurospicy at home. And I don't know, it's one of those things, isn't it? I wonder to some extent, are all entrepreneurs slightly that way inclined, because there's this obsessive side to things, isn't there? Like we do business because we love business, and there's so many things to learn. And like, it does, I love what you said there, Susan. We can actually run as fast as we've always wanted to run, because I found in corporate, everyone was like, can you just slow down? And sometimes it's like, no, I can't.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
And that's, and I jump from topic to topic, and, I love talking to my ADHD friends because, we get each other. And, when
yeah.
I say, there's nothing that I can't do with a Vyvanse and a Diet Coke, like that's, and Vyvanse is an ADHD drug for those of you listening going, what the heck is that? But yeah, so the podcast that I want to start is AI Spectrum, empowering a neurodiverse entrepreneurs. And I've been hired at the end of January to do my very first keynote for 2 days of a room of neurodiverse entrepreneurs. And Jess, to answer what you had mentioned, there's a lot of data about entrepreneurs and ADHD. Because we're unemployable, so we just go out and do our own thing. I wouldn't sit through 7 hours of somebody else's training.
No, I mean, that's the thing is, like, I remember when I was in corporate, the other part that was so frustrating was that I had to go through so many layers of approval to even get one idea to come to fruition. And then it would take so long to come to fruition. I was done with it, and I was on to the next thing, because forget that. So that was a dream. Being an entrepreneur, that's always been a dream, being an entrepreneur, sometimes to its fault, seeing something come to fruition that really wasn't the wisest idea. But as we come to a sort of a close today, let's give a little bit of, what's up for us next, what we're excited about, and what's something that we should all remember as it relates to having success in our businesses with AI in this new frontier. So I think there was 3 or 4 questions all in that one statement that I just made. So Susan, what do you have coming up? You just talked about the upcoming podcast, and you're going to be speaking on things. If people were to hear you and say, how can I help you, Susan? Would that be to get you speaking engagements booked at corporations? What would that be?
I love speaking engagements. My goal, so I've kind of really reduced my speaking schedule, 2 to 3 good keynotes a month. I love speaking to associations. I love speaking to women's groups, old tech folks like myself. I just, really enjoy. I'm so passionate and so excited about this topic and I really feel like I'm chunking it down into the most basic level. Like, here, these are the 3 things you have to do. Don't worry about everything else, all that noise out there, just do you, right? Stay in your lane.
So if you had to give this audience that, okay, here's what you should pay attention to, like, what should they pay attention to?
Okay.
With AI?
I think you need to sit around the table with your team. And if you're the team, then you sit around the table with you, and you need to find all of the parts in your business that aren't working right. And then map it out. You can do it with a pencil, you can do it on your computer, however way you want to do it. And then start seeing, is there a solution in here? Is this still working for me? Is it still relevant? Is it, once again, is it meeting my message? Is it hitting my target audience? Is it bringing me new and fresh audiences? My speaking engagements locally, which is so weird because I haven't spoken locally in years. And for this whole fall I did, we had 67 new customers. So, that's pretty cool, right?
That's awesome.
Yeah. And we now have 37,000 people in our database.
Wow. That's amazing.
Which I'm babysitting them. But my plan is using the AI tools to really reach those customers who already know, like, and trust us.
Exactly.
And the women's groups know, like, and trust us, right? So it's still getting down to basics. And pay attention to the prompt engineering. That's the key to all this.
Yes. And that's my takeaway from this, is to use the correct prompt engineering to really look at the business development processes that we have and see where there's opportunities for better conversion, where there's opportunities for better communication and for automation, because we need more touch points. And why wouldn't we automate some of those touch points?
I'm going to connect you to this podcast that I love on AI. And this latest podcast, the one I was listening to and had FOMO, you're going to get excited about the opportunities that they're presenting here.
Awesome. What's the name of it? Do you remember?
I should know it off the top of my head. I love this guy. He's my favorite.
That's okay. That's what happens.
Yeah. It's called Leveraging AI. And it's amazing. And he says he is an AI enthusiast. And he's actually a consultant that travels worldwide and gets companies their AI, programs, right? So not my company, but maybe IBM or something.
Awesome. Love that. So Jessica, what would you like to leave everyone with today? And
like a final thought type thing.
Yeah. And what do you have coming up that you would like people to know about, if anything?
So I think like my approach to AI generally has been like, this is great. I don't know anything about it. Who on my team is going to do this? And so I think it's been fascinating for me to be in listening mode today and just be like, ooh, maybe there is more to this. And I think it's exciting to always find something where there's opportunity for optimization, for improvement. I think I know I have one team member who is so like AI ready and has already kind of introduced some small things behind the scenes. But I think it's exciting to be like, there's a whole adventure of discovery that all businesses can go on. So I feel very interested to go and go and have that conversation with my team and be like, oh, what opportunities can we see here? But yeah, in terms of what I have coming up in 2 days' time, in fact, what day is it? It's Tuesday. In 2 days' time, I have a workshop for women consultants and thought leaders. It's called What I Focus On Expands, and it's about using our natural energy to make ourselves more productive and more profitable. So if you are interested in that kind of thing, it's super fun. We have a lot of laughs at workshops. We do a lot of interactive stuff. Come along to my profile, check my recent posts. We've been posting about it this week. I think off the top of my head, you can get that by going to jessicaferney.com/event. So if you're a woman consultant or thought leader at 6 or 7 figures, you want to get more in touch with your natural energy, come and have some fun with us on Thursday.
That sounds amazing. And I think I would have been at that one, but I'm going to be with Susan at another AI event because we're just diving in deep and going wide.
AIO.
That's right. AIO. And from my side of the equation here, I would just say that as I run an organization of women running 6, 7, and 8 figure businesses, it is our responsibility to see where we can use AI and to understand it to at least a middle school level, I would say, so that we're familiar with it. And I love the idea of, and I'm already thinking about who on my team could start doing some of this research and seeing, where, after I've identified the areas where we need the support, identifying, okay, what are some pieces of software that we could try and that we could use. And so we have to use our teams appropriately. And I think that's my final thought is we can't be all things to all people. And when we know ourselves, like Susan knows that she's a tech genius. I'm not that person. And I have people on my team who they just absorb tech like extremely easily. And so if they can come to me and say, here's what I've learned about this, and then show me some things, and then I can apply my strategic visionary brain to say, okay, here's how we're going to use this for our business. That's using the people that you have in the right seats on the right bus. So that's what we have for today, everybody. I hope you have a fabulous AIEIO
yes.
rest of the year. And we'll see you next month for the 6 to 7 figure women podcast.
And
Thank you, Susan.
Bye.
Yes.
Take care.
Thank you.